Hi, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, everyone. Delighted to have you join us today for the ASEAN China Teaching English Online Conference 2025. Before we move on to our next speaker, Ken Highland, I'm going to just talk you through some of our housekeeping. And if you can please note that the chat is for comments, and there's a Q&A for questions for the panel and for Ken, but your microphones and cameras are disabled. If you wish to get a certificate for this session, please wait till the end and we'll provide you with a link to get your certificate. And also, if you're in the Zoom room, you'll be able to get an email directly to you. If you're watching this from the lobby, please join into the actual session Zoom room, and then you'll be open to getting the email. We do wish you to have a safe and happy session today. So if there's any concerns that you have, please raise them with our safeguarding@britishcouncil.org email. And please note that to make this a safe place for everyone, be polite and respectful. Do not share any personal information, contact details, etc. in the chat box. And be aware that moderators may remove participants who disrupt the session. The session is being recorded and live streamed on Teach English Asia Facebook, Teach English China WeChat video, and Bilibili. By attending, you acknowledge that your comments and names may be recorded. So today we've got Ken Highland giving us a presentation on feedback and marking using AI. And we're privileged to be joined today by one of the world's most respected voices in applied linguistics. Professor Highland is an honorary professor at the University of East Anglia. He's globally renowned scholar in academic writing, and Professor Highland also serves as a visiting professor at Jilin University and is a foundation fellow of the Hong Kong Academy of the Humanities. So this is a reflection of his deep and ongoing engagement with this region. I myself live in Malaysia, and Ken has also lived in Malaysia. And with over 100,000 citations, Ken's work has shaped how writing is taught and researched around the world. He's been the world's most cited linguist for the last 5 years, named the most influential scholar in language and linguistics for 5 consecutive years by the Stanford Elsevier Global Rankings. His book, Teaching and Researching Writing, will soon be released in its 5th edition. His collected works, The Essential Highland, is widely read across Asia and beyond. We're truly fortunate to have him with us today, and please join me in warmly welcoming Professor Ken Highland. And it's over to you, Ken.
Thank you. Let's see if we can handle the tech. Okay. Can you see my screen? Can you see my slides?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thanks for that wonderful introduction, Kirstine. Thanks to the British Council for inviting me to speak at this webinar series, and thanks to you for coming along. I see that there are people from all over ASEAN and China. I'm very humble to that you're here to listen to me. And I guess you're here because you have an interest in feedback and how you might improve your delivery of it, or reduce the amount of effort that you put into it. Because we're also feeling probably overwhelmed by the growing expectations on us to provide more feedback, faster, of a better quality, to ever more students. So a major question then is, can generative AI tools like ChatGPT help us to do this? So today I want to look at what automation brings to feedback, exploring the contribution of automated writing evaluation programs, AWE, and generative artificial intelligence, Gen AI. There are obviously a lot of things to talk about here, but I will focus on 5 key questions. So is it accurate? Does it pick up errors in student texts? Is it relevant? So can it support the needs of students in different subjects and disciplines? Is it empathetic? So can it sugarcoat the pill of critical feedback? Is it valued by teachers and learners? And is it educational? Does it produce better writers or just better texts? Now, I don't want to disappoint you at the end of this talk, so I'll disappoint you at the beginning. Most of these questions haven't been answered, but there's a lot of research going on. The trouble is that things are moving faster than we can keep up. But because of the frenzy around AI, I think these are questions worth asking. Let's start though with an easier question. Where are we with feedback? And I think the benefits of feedback on student writing are now well established. So broadly, we agree that it provides writers with a sense of audience and what readers value in a text. It gives opportunities for students to learn from the expectations of those they're writing for. It offers the assistance of an expert guiding a novice. It points forward to other texts that students will write in the future, and it supports targeted classroom instruction. So feedback then is central. Whatever your preferred teaching style or method, feedback is going to be part of it. But this greater certainty about the benefits of feedback means that teachers have come under greater pressure to provide more personalized, more timely, and more detailed responses for students, to give feedback that encourages student engagement and feedback that contains doable recommendations for improvement. So it's supposed to be positive, specific, clear, and point to revision, not evaluation, a tall order. And with ever larger class sizes, heavier workloads, teacher fatigue and burnout are increasingly common. In the UK, for example, a lot of teachers leave the profession, and a quarter of university teachers, less than a quarter of university teachers remain in the profession 10 years after they start. So it's not surprising then that grading papers often feels like this. And when you get to this stage, what are you going to do? Well, we turn to AI because automation has the potential to change all this. So AWE systems like Grammarly and PigEye have been with us for over a decade, and assist learners with corrective feedback on their writing. With the emergence of large language models, LLMs such as ChatGPT by OpenAI and Palm 2 by Google, AWE enters a new era, really. And their rapid development has been extraordinary. ChatGPT was the fastest product in history to reach 100 million users in January 2023, with 1 billion users a month later. And these tools have proved useful in supporting second language student writing, offering automated translation, example sentences, in-text correction, error correction, automated scoring, and so on, as well as helping to scaffold students' writing. The hope is then that this may increase learner motivation and autonomy, while relieving the teachers of hours of marking. But are these just empty claims, raising our expectations to unrealistic levels? We're still at the gee whiz stage of AI. And so are we, in our enthusiasm to remove the drudgery of mundane grammar correction, overlooking weaknesses in the programs? Can AI really deliver on its promise? After all, we've seen these kind of promises before. I'm old enough to remember the introduction of spell checkers and autocorrect in word processing, and that doesn't always turn out so well. So I don't want to rain on the parade here, but I think we need to ask the questions I began with before we open the champagne. So, is it accurate and consistent? Is it rhetorically appropriate? Is it empathetic? Is it valued by learners and teachers? And is it educational? And let's look at each question in turn. First of all, is it accurate? Does it provide correct and consistent advice to students on their writing? Well, this is currently the big claim for AI, isn't it? And it seems to do a good job in some areas. So AI feedback has a lot of strengths. Generally, it's very effective in identifying grammar errors, punctuation mistakes, and syntax problems. It can analyze sentence structure and suggest ways to improve clarity and conciseness, to express ideas more effectively. It can help ensure an even writing style, tone, formatting, and so on. It can help students maintain academic integrity by checking for plagiarism, and some models can even check for the move stages, such as introductions, conclusions, and transitions between different moves. But okay, all right, this is what we do as teachers, don't we? Can AI do it better or the same? Let's look at the research. Lynn and Crossway compared feedback provided by humans and ChatGPT, and they found that teachers gave fairly consistent feedback in terms of quantity and the ratio of direct and indirect feedback, local and global comments, and so on. ChatGPT feedback, however, varied considerably, even when using the same prompt on the same text, so it made it harder to standardize feedback across large classes. You were getting different results on different for the same papers. There are also big differences in terms of the grades given by human and Gen AI. ChatGPT seems to be a significantly tougher marker than teachers, although it turns out to be more consistent than teachers. Victor Zhang and I, a few years ago, compared the feedback given to just 2 Chinese undergraduates by both teachers and an AWE program. We looked at how the students engaged with these different kinds of feedback in their writing over a 16-week course. For this, we looked at PigEye. If you're working in China, you've probably heard of PigEye. It's used by more than 6,000 schools and universities, over 13 million students, and reviewing over 1 billion essays. So a lot of people use PigEye. And looking at student text, teacher feedback, PigEye feedback, student interviews, we found that teacher feedback addressed 16 different error types, whereas the AWE PigEye only picked up 8. So many mechanical errors, such as number abbreviations, were not identified by PigEye. On the other hand, while teacher feedback covered more errors, PigEye tended to highlight rather than correct them. So this kind of indirect feedback given by PigEye can encourage reflection. It can encourage students to develop a greater awareness of their mistakes by thinking about them. The accuracy of AI feedback, though, varies based on the sophistication of the model, what aspects of writing are being evaluated, and the context in which the feedback is given. Let's move on to the second question. Can it actually advise students on their specialized discourses and genres. Now, research tells us that students want targeted, personalized learning support, such as feedback that goes beyond grammar correction to look at discourse. But can it do this? Now, it might seem that AI-generated texts are indistinguishable from human written ones. Tools such as GPT-0 and AI Cheat Check, lovely name, have been developed to detect AI in students' writing, but these are not 100% reliable. Nor do human readers often pick up differences. Scarf et al., for example, compared exam submissions generated by ChatGPT and undergraduates with 94% of the AI submissions undetected. Similarly, Gao et al. Compared exam submissions generated by ChatGPT they identified 68% of research abstracts created by ChatGPT. So a lot of stuff is slipping through the net. Applied linguists have done a bit better than AI and these plagiarism checkers. And it's begun to show that ChatGPT does not write like humans. It produces different linguistic features, different rhetorical strategies, and different content. So Kong and Liu, for example, found significant differences between human and AI-generated research article abstracts across 4 disciplines. So they differed in their moves, the sequence of the moves, and the frequency with which one move occurred within another move. So very different. Zhang and Highland. Kevin, Zhang and I have also looked at this. So in the series of 6 papers over the last couple of years, we compared undergraduate essays with AI-generated texts on the same topics and length. So looking at 145 texts from both Gen AI and humans, students, 75,000 words in each corpus. Our prompt was this: you're a competent undergraduate writer of English texts, write 16 argumentative essays on each of these different topics. So we used the results of our analyses to compare the use of various interpersonal features like bundles, which are kind of fixed 4-word expressions, engagement markers, how the text brought the reader in, looking at meta discourse, and the stance of the writer. Now, in terms of stance, we found that ChatGPT essays were coherent and logically organized, but they contained significantly fewer interpersonal features. They had far fewer hedges, boosters, attitude markers, and self-mention. Very, very different way of presenting information, much more impersonal. So these differences showed that the ChatGPT generated essays are more formal, more impersonal, more expository. So this is what we got from ChatGPT. So there's not a lot of the author in there, impersonal, formal tone. The student essays, on the other hand, were more heavily loaded with stance features. So they used hedges far more to help display their uncertainty about something, to be more indirect, to be more polite to the reader who may hold a different opinion. So to soften the imposition of their views on readers who may have a different stance on something. So we got a lot of these hedges. Similarly, ChatGPT makes far less use of self-mention. So I, me, and my, lot less of it in its essays. And of course, this is because it's trained on millions of diverse texts from the internet, very few of which are student essays. So when we're comparing a student writing with a ChatGPT text, we can't be sure that its output represents our target genres, the kind of things that we want our students to write. In contrast, the students gained credit by marking their views as their own. So here, a lot of self-mention, boosters to show strong opinion. But because ChatGPT creates author invisible texts, it doesn't really look like student writing or how we want our students to write. It can't offer accurate feedback on rhetorical and pragmatic aspects of argument, the things that really make argument work, not just the content, particularly in subjects that value explicit interaction. We also find that students make greater efforts to engage with readers. They use far more devices to encourage readers to accept the arguments. So reader mentions, talking to the reader directly, and directives. All of these features are more frequent in the student essays. Reader mentions and directives, for example, these try and encourage a shared perspective between the writer and the reader. They try and ensure that the argument is understood by reaching out. You know, this is a shared problem, we're exploring it together. Questions, on the other hand, invite direct collusion between the writer and the reader. They address the reader as someone with an interest in the issues raised by the question, the ability to recognize the importance and value of asking that question, and the good sense to follow the writer's response to it. So questions then are the main strategy of involvement. They invite the reader to orientate themselves in a certain way to the argument, so that readers can be led to the writer's viewpoint. Many of the questions in the essays combined questions with inclusive we. As students tried to bring readers into the text through a shared exploration of the topic, we ought to ask ourselves question. We would have to use our brains. In contrast, ChatGPT contained very few questions. Instead, the model prioritizes clarity and coherence, and this reflects its algorithms and its training. So research shows that AI texts have higher information density. So they're more packed with information, more nouns, more preposition structures. Human texts have more clausal bundles and far more stance markers, as I've been talking about. So because of this, Gao et al. Argue that texts created by ChatGPT are vaguer and more formulaic, reinforcing a view of writing as a kind of fixed structure following a system of grammatical rules. I mean, maybe this is okay at the beginning of writing, but it doesn't really help students to argue effectively when they get to high school or university. So AI, quoting Ken Highland here, fails to take account of the beliefs and knowledge writers assume readers will draw on in reading their text. It makes no assumptions about who the reader is. Yang et al. Also found that ChatGPT texts rely far more on repetitive connective signals, things like and, but, so, which suggest less careful planning. So we get a simplistic list, uh, a structure like a list. So if GPT doesn't produce the kinds of texts that we value as teachers, how can it evaluate, correct, and advise students on their argumentative writing? It's an open question. My third question, is it empathetic? I mean, can it deliver critical feedback in a way that is both sympathetic and useful? I think as teachers, we are often sensitive to the effect of our comments on students. So we tend to give feedback to students, not to text. We think about the impact of our remarks. So we tone down criticism and suggestions. We know that negative feedback can discourage students about their writing. It can lock them into a spiral of, of failure, lack of motivation, further failure. In contrast, feedback which is sensitive to how it might be received helps build confidence. If students feel respected, then they may be encouraged to revise and reflect on the feedback. Uh, Going back a long way, a paper that Fiona and Hyland and I published 25 years ago called Sugaring the Pill, we identified 4 patterns that teachers use to soften their comments. Most commonly, they paired a criticism with either a praise or suggestion. So we get comments like this. These are genuine teacher comments. Teachers also used hedging a great deal, modal verbs, imprecise quantifiers, usuality devices. So some of the material seemed a little long-winded. I wonder if it could have been compressed a little. They also used personal attribution, where they responded as an ordinary reader, somebody just reading the text rather than an expert teacher. I'm sorry, I couldn't see any evidence. You could have given me your outline. I find it hard what the main point is. And of course, they used questions. We all use questions. The first 2 paragraphs, do they need joining? Well, yes, of course they do. Did you check your spelling carefully? All right. So teachers use these kinds of strategies to mitigate the full impact of their comments. I asked ChatGPT if it could provide supportive, sensitive feedback. It insisted it could, and it did it through, it could do it in these ways, through tone control, using phrases like that, using praise plus suggestion combinations, using a conversational style. So, ChatGPT's got a lot of confidence that it can help tone down some of the criticisms of feedback. It then gave me an example, and it created this text and then gave feedback on it. So that's the text, and this is the feedback. Hi, thanks for sharing. It's a lovely description of a peaceful place. I can really imagine the relaxing sound. Thanks for painting a picture. Um, and then some feedback on the language choices. Now, I don't know what you think, but I feel expressions like we usually use the ing form. Um, you could say X, we usually say Y, just a small missing word. They lack specificity and linguistic insight. Where's the instruction here? They don't build students' grammar knowledge or writing abilities. Similarly, the gushing positivity of praise is kind of overwhelming, isn't it? I don't think this is really uh, um, helping to develop students' writing. In fact, it reminded me of a student comment, a Chinese student many years ago in New Zealand, who said in an interview, sometimes maybe the teacher doesn't mean it. They just try to encourage you because there's always a but after the positives. Yeah, so they recognize these strategies. Sometimes the teacher just tries to find something good in my essay, and that might not be the main strength, may not be the main point. So students can recognize insincere feedback. And the ChatGPT responses seem formulaic, while positive feedback should be sincere and specific. This is what the ex-US President Harry Truman said, be sincere even if you don't mean it, because students can always spot our games. AI seems to have problems with sincerity. Okay, moving on to question 4. Is it trusted? Do we value it? A lot of the research focuses on the kind of relatively personal nature of the feedback that AI can instantly provide with students. You know, it's delivered to a particular text very quickly. But does this swing students towards a preference for AI feedback? Li et al. Found that feedback given by AI was highly rated by Chinese undergraduates as being more relevant to their needs compared with teachers' more general feedback, which focus mainly on accuracy. GPT's feedback, on the other hand, was seen as more balanced across organization and grammar. In another study, Escalante et al. Found that an equal split really among students voting for AI-generated versus human-generated feedback after weekly feedback during a 6-week course. The main reason they gave for this was that the students enjoyed interacting face to face with a human tutor. It was more engaging compared with reading through AI feedback. They also liked the way that they could ask follow-up questions and get immediate feedback, allowed them to develop their writing and their speaking skills at the same time. The students who preferred AI feedback said it was clearer, more understandable, consistent, more specific, especially on academic style and vocabulary. Others like getting GPT detailed feedback on errors. They also mentioned that unlike tutors, AI was always available. So it's always there on their screen. It's not having a cup of tea in the cafe. Teachers seem to think that Gen AI feedback is useful for supporting their own feedback, particularly as it produced far more feedback than they ever could themselves. They also like the fact that feedback address content, organization, and language with equal quantity and quality. On the downside, EAP students in Wang's study worried that a dependence on Gen AI might limit their critical thinking or undermine the development of their writing skills. Nor does AI create a level playing field on which all students can benefit equally. Using AI tools isn't intuitive, especially for students and teachers with limited digital literacy. How can we design prompts for our students? How can students best use these programs in the most effective way? Increasingly, digital literacy is becoming indispensable in language teaching and learning. A recent study that Victor Zhang and I did found that students' digital literacy had a huge impact on how they engaged with automated written evaluation feedback, regardless of their proficiency in English. Digital literacy then means being aware of the advantages and constraints of technologies, an ability to evaluate digital information, and a willingness to use digital technologies for peer collaboration. So digital literacy is crucial to how effectively students can engage with the feedback they get in that way. Encouragingly, though, research suggests that students want and value human feedback. Tang and Hand Tang and Hand and Lee, for example, found that many students miss the human touch compared with the overly formal responses from ChatGPT. So suggesting that AI should be integrated with teacher feedback, and I'll come back to that. My final question, is it educational? In other words, can AI feedback produce better writers rather than just better drafts? Now, several studies have found that AI to have a positive effect on writing development, especially when students are asked to make substantive revisions based on the feedback. Others are not so sure. For example, Stevenson and Pakiti found that second language students using AWE reduced their errors across drafts of the same text, but this didn't transfer to other texts. The learning didn't move over to other activities. So, as we noted earlier with question 1, AI feedback is good at detecting grammar and spelling errors, suggesting sentence corrections, identifying awkward phrasing or word choices. But while this kind of surface level correction can help improve current drafts, it's unlikely to lead to longer term learning unless the student reflects on the feedback. Just accepting the changes without understanding them tends to only improve the next draft. Not the student's ability. This is a kind of passive use of feedback. Studies are starting to show that students improve their writing skills when engaging actively with AI feedback, using it to revise, reflect on errors, compare their drafts, and so on. So, an uncritical over-reliance on Gen AI means that students might fail to develop important academic skills like creativity, criticality, clarity, precision. Overall, then, AI feedback may deprive students of important learning opportunities and weaken the development of an academic voice. I think the main problem is that we're hypnotized by the tech. Simply, we've put too much emphasis on the AI tools rather than on the learners. The focus has been on the delivery of AI feedback with the assumption that can improve students' writing skills and help language learning if it's given effectively. Much less attention has been devoted to whether it's received attentively. But we all know as teachers, providing feedback doesn't automatically lead to writing improvement. Rather, we have to look at whether students are engaging with feedback. Engagement refers to students' degree of attention, curiosity, interest, willingness to use their language proficiency and learning skills to make progress. So Victor Zhang again and I found engaged learners participate actively and reflect more deeply on both teacher and AI feedback. They spend more time using the feedback, they show more positive attitudes towards the feedback, and they use more revising strategies in response to the feedback. Unengaged learners are less motivated and show less willingness to use the feedback. So interestingly, we discovered that the second language students were more engaged when rewriting after receiving both PIGI and teacher feedback rather than the AWE feedback alone. So to stand any chance of improving students' writing skills, feedback then needs to be understandable, actionable, interactive, and supported by classroom teaching. Combining automated feedback with teacher feedback may be the best way forward here, and several studies have suggested how we might combine the two, and found that teachers offering more higher order feedback and the AI giving the feedback on more surface things can produce greater improvements in writing. Okay, I've got 4 minutes left. So to sum up, research on the effectiveness of AI feedback has shown mixed results. I mean, it's still too early. Positive outcomes, AI feedback can lead to improvements in grammar and organization in writing. Comparative studies show that while AI can provide more and more balanced feedback, this is often impersonal, vague, and limited to surface issues. Human feedback provides deeper insights, more pragmatic advice, and more nuanced critiques. The user experience, the effectiveness of AI feedback can also depend on students' digital literacy skills and level of engagement with the feedback. We can't just leave it to AI. Students who reflect on AI suggestions benefit more. But of course, feedback is more than just providing students with advice on their texts. It's a dialogue between students and teachers. It's a relationship. It's a relationship designed to encourage reflection and growth. And to best help students develop their writing skills, I think we have to consider using AI in conjunction with human feedback and with student self-reflection. So what does this teacher AI partnership look like? Well, coming at it very briefly, it means AI providing scaffolded writing tasks. So that is, the teachers let students write a draft, the students get the AI feedback on that draft, and then the teacher holds a mini lesson on common errors before students revise. So here, AI becomes a teaching tool, not just a fixer. Secondly, error analysis activities. Students get AI feedback on their writing and then are asked to categorize their errors. So is it a verb tense, word order, spelling? What is it? So over time, they build an awareness of both of language and their own weaknesses so that they can attack those and develop as writers. And thirdly, to use AI as a writing coach. So some teachers set up ChatGPT so that students can talk to the program about how to improve their clarity, their structure, their argument in their essays, things that bother them the most. And this again involves some level of digital literacy on the part of teachers. So this kind of interactive format helps students to think metacognitively, to learn from their essays. It encourages reflection. And at the core of this balanced approach is not just the quality of the feedback, but the quality of the teaching. We're central to the process. We cannot at the moment be replaced by AI. We need to encourage student agency and encourage critical AI literacy. So help students to use AI effectively while understanding its limitations. So that's me out. I want to finish with a final piece of advice. Thanks for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Ken, for that insightful presentation. The tech is definitely moving faster than research, but this has provided a great oversight of what's happening in academia and the research and some of the great findings that you've discovered. So I'll start with questions from some of our social media streams, as then from the Zoom room ourselves here. So the first question from China is that AI gives balanced feedback, but writes differently than humans. For example, they might underuse stance markers, which teachers value in genres like persuasive writing. So when the AI criteria conflicts with our pedagogical goals, how should we integrate its feedback and adapt the AI to our standards or adapt our standards to the AI feedback?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as AI develops, we're going to get more opportunities to model the kind of writing that we want, so that the AI program can actually identify things that we value in a text. Um, I mean, at some point, we're going to be able to identify the kind of text that we want the AI to learn from for our particular purposes. So we can use, undergraduate text or high school student text or whatever to make those comparisons and allow AI to to use that information to comment on our students' text. But at the moment, I think it's still a great learning experience. These students that use PigEye, they often um, uh, rewrite their text again and again until they get a better score. And each time they're improving the text. And so what the teacher gets at the end of that is a text which they can look at the argument and the discourse without being overwhelmed by surface errors. So, at the moment, uh, I think it is possible to use AI effectively, but there's more to come. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. And we've had quite a few similar questions. This one's from Facebook, but also our Zoom audience have asked about what are your views on the issues of data safety and ownership of the students' work when using AI for marking?
Um, yeah, this is a problem. The um, I've been asked by a publisher to allow AI to take my books and papers for their modeling. Um, I think it's important that there is a wide variety of texts available to read, but we're in an age where our data, not just our writing, but our preferences, our shopping, our online behavior, it's all being um, uh, collected, and presumably it's valuable to someone. Amazon can tell what you're going to buy next. So I think it's dangerous, but I'm not sure how you stop big tech um, from collecting the data that it wants. Officially they're supposed to ask you, but you know, who are students? I think it I don't want to be pessimistic. I think there are great things are going to come out of AI, but but we need humans there to make sure that it conforms to the kind of values and use that we want it to, that we would like to model, rather than allowing the machine to just run away with it, because that way, disaster lies. Thanks for the question.
Okay. No, thank you. And this is a follow-up, and it's from a teacher who is exhausted, as you described at the beginning of your presentation, and is using AI to help. But what do you see as the next major hurdle of ethical considerations that will need to be addressed as AI becomes even more integrated into marking and feedback?
Mm. Well, we're already confronting it, aren't we, with the whole issue of AI generated uh, texts and the potential for students to submit this work as their own. Um, it is hard to identify what's been written by a machine, and it's getting better at it. I mean, we've all seen the movies, Terminator, in the end, they're going to come for you. But I think there are very serious ethical concerns that we're not really addressing. I think the power of big technical corporations, of Google, of Apple, of OpenAI, they have enormous power, and they are increasingly having more power than many governments. So, how teachers address this, I think we can do this in our own small worlds, in our classrooms. We try and use AI in a way which helps our students most, and that is not allow them to use it to create essays, but to as a pedagogic tool. I mean, the suggestions I made at the end, where students are using AI, and they need to be taught to do this because it's not an intuitive thing, um, to use AI to help them identify the kinds of errors that they're making repeatedly and to improve those. To improve their ability to address those things. I think it can increase autonomy and criticality, but the issue lies really with student and teacher willingness to use the programs in that way. If we just allow AI to do whatever it likes in our classrooms, then we're failing our students, I think. We need um, we need to address the problems right now, and to see AI as a potential collaborator in developing students' writing rather than as an enemy, and um, trying to be one step ahead of it and prevent it doing its worst. We need to try and use it.
Yeah, thank you. There's been lots of comments too, and one was about the inequalities of the kind of language learning models coming from predominantly Western academic discourse. So
Hmm.
what safeguards should teachers consider to prevent this deepening inequality with other Englishes and other home languages?
So the concern is that the model that it uses is a native English speaking model. Is that the issue?
Yes, yeah.
Right. Um, how do you want your students to speak? You know, I think a lot of it has to do with audience, isn't it? What is the expectation of your reader or your hearer? Are they expecting American English, British English, native English, or are they expecting um, a variant of English, a Singaporean English, Hong Kong Cantonese English. I think, as I said earlier, it's going to be possible um, to kind of ring fence uh, uh, um, data that includes the kind of language that you want it to include. So, I mean, corpus linguistics for years has used both massive models using billions of words of newspapers, for example, but also teachers have developed corpora that of their students' writing of their good students writing, and use that to model what they would like from their students. There's no reason that the, the 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 corpus that large language models draw on might be restricted in that way, so that there are different corpora depending on the kinds of uh, uh, English varieties that the teacher values. But I don't think you can do it just yet.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so one from Facebook, they've asked, what advice would you give to teachers who are against using AI in teaching practices?
um, are there such people? Yeah, yeah, right on. I salute you, support you, but I don't know how you're going to do it. You're going to get pressure from uh, from teachers, from your colleagues, from your administrators, and maybe from students themselves who feel that they are not getting the full um, benefit of the educational experience without it. So I think you might have a struggle, but I think it's an argument worth having. In your office, in your staff room, can you um, create a context where the value of having AI supported feedback is up for question, where you can rationally discuss and discover the advantages and disadvantages of it. Um, I'm not a cheerleader for AI. I think it's got a lot of limitations, but and I do worry about the impact it has on students and possibly the long-term impact on teachers. I think, professions like translation and interpreting have a very limited lifespan now. And I don't want to see that happen to teachers. So we need to have this kind of critical conversation and to uh, develop strategies, a response to how we're going to use it. We shouldn't allow the tech companies to just dictate, okay, this is available, this is how you use it. We've got to decide for ourselves as professionals where we intervene, what our strategy is going to be to use this effectively to keep ourselves relevant in the game of teaching and to best help our students.
Thank you. Thank you to our audiences for these wonderful questions. And thank you, Ken, for your insight. I said there's so many more really interesting questions. I'd love to continue talking with you.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think though we should move on to wrap up. So Ken, if you would like to wave goodbye, give any
Yeah,
final message to the audience, then
yeah.
I know
Thanks.
they'd love to know more.
Yeah, thank you for everyone for coming. I mean, that was just a literature review. Things are moving at speed. Keep calm, carry on marking, and don't let AI dominate you. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken. I'll just now give everyone some instructions as to how to get your certificate, and you can um, follow on. And Ken, if you can stay on for this if you'd like to. Otherwise, we'll say good night and we'll see you again soon, Ken.
I think
So,
okay. Yeah.
okay, thanks, Ken. So for our China, there's different instructions for our audience in China and our audience in the rest of the world in ASEAN. So for our China audience, here's how to access your certificate. Please follow our WeChat official account, and you'll find the survey link in the latest post. Complete the survey and your certificate will be sent to you via email. And please do give us your feedback in the survey, as it really helps us shape our future events. I think now our audience in China will be leaving us, and we wish you all the best the rest of the day, and hope to see you next week for more of the conference. I'm just waiting for confirmation that China have left us before I go on to the instructions for the ASEAN participants. Apologies if there's a lag in my connection. Okay, so again, we want to help the ASEAN participants give us feedback and get their certificates. We're going to show you a QR code in just a second. Oh, I don't know if it's just my chat's not giving me the update. We're not able to show the QR codes in the WeChat discussion. That's why I'm waiting to just make sure that we're clear to move on to the next slide. Great, we can. So for the ASEAN participants, here's how you can access your certificate and complete the feedback survey. If you open the PDF using your desktop browser, you'll be able to delete the placeholder that says name and surname and type in your name in the grey box. Then you'll be able to save your personalised certificate. Your feedback is extremely valuable to us. It helps us improve across all of our Teaching English offer. So please complete the survey, and if you're available to give us more insights, take time to write in the comments in the survey form. Okay, so I'll give you a chance to snap the QR code so you all get your certificate. Oh. And thank you all very, very much for joining us today. And the next session will be on next Tuesday on the 28th of October. And we're starting with a wonderful teaching showcase at 4 p.m. UTC. And we'll hope to see you again there. Just going to say thank you.